we'll move on to our next or our final review for this week. I will say, and it's funny because we talked about the MCU via the Comic-Con stuff, because I think that was really important to touch on, obviously, but this is like the first week where we don't have a MCU thing to review, it feels like, in forever, like via either a show or a movie. And naturally we're talking about it because of Comic-Con. But we have a television review, a series review from FX, and it is The Bear. It's not a real bear, mind you. It is a culinary show-ish, and we're big Top Chef fans here on the BXG. So, and then I think Greg will be able to maybe give a little bit of insight here as well, just based on his experience working in various restaurants. But Jeremy Allen White stars in the lead as Carmy Berzetto. Jeremy's probably most well known for his role as Philip Gallagher on the acclaimed HBO series Shameless. He's joined by Ebon Moss Bachrick, who plays his fake cousin Richie, and then various other characters mixed in with some cameos: Joel McHale, John Bernthal, Oliver Platt, others. And it's a story of a fine dining chef, a young chef from the fine dining world, returns to Chicago to run his family's sandwich shop after his brother committed suicide and left the restaurant to him. General thoughts. I love this show. I was a big fan.
Oh, yeah. So I heard really good things about it, and it was on the list of things to watch, and it's just other things we were catching up on. And we went to Chicago, and then let's go and watch this now. And I'm really glad we did. I mean, it's still very good. I imagine if you don't go to Chicago literally 2 days before you started, or a day before, I think, when we came back. But to go to Chicago and have all this fresh and to see it, it was like the city's a character in this show, and you feel it more after you go there. Our initial thing was, we'll watch a couple episodes, and we'll just kind of keep this going. Started at 7:30. We just went through all 8 episodes, one sitting, didn't stop, and never felt like stopping. We were never like, oh, should we just was like, nope, we'll just keep going, because they're like 27-minute episodes and they fly by. It's not just, they're just not 27, they are quick 27, and it's so good. There's some backlash about, like, some people comment like, this isn't really how the restaurant works, and it's like, well, you still have to remember it's a fictional show, so you can't have it exactly how a restaurant works. But if you're getting most of it correct, then people probably shouldn't complain, because it still is like a lot of fun. Like I said, it whips through. I think everybody in this show is great, perfectly cast. One of those shows where like everybody works, and it just was fun. To me, it was just a fun show. Leaves you on like a cool cliffhanger about knowing you're going to get, I think at this point everyone knows it's going to have a season 2.
Yep, it was confirmed. Got renewed.
Confirmed. Yeah, and so it just really works, and it's so rare, I think, now to have a show that isn't prestige television in the sense of like 1 hour drama and bigger than life. This is very small. This is literally the smallest you could have. It's literally just a restaurant in this kind of not even deep Chicago. It's like outskirts Chicago, and it's really just pertaining with these people in this restaurant. Cannot be smaller than this, and for it to be so well done and to matter so much. Like, people really, really like this show, and I'm one of them. You're one of them too, and that's cool to me. It's like, it's rare to get something like this, and it feels like a phenomenon that it's good to be a part of. Like, I felt kind of weird not being a part of it initially, but then I was like, I'm so glad that I did Chicago first and then did it. I just really liked it. I thought everybody was good. And I'll have you obviously comment, then I'll relate a couple things about the restaurant, nothing major. But go ahead. You liked it? What stood out?
Yeah. A couple different things. First of all, the lead character, Carmy, but the actor,
James White.
he played a very similar character in Shameless.
Hmm.
More of a. Have you watched Shameless?
I've watched like an episode here and there. I've never actually watched it full and through, but I knew like, who he was.
Yeah. I mean, I would recommend it, at least the first several seasons, but he plays a similar character. He's a little bit more well put together in this show than he was in Shameless, but Shameless also takes place in Chicago. And so he's just got that vibe about him. I think that what I really liked about this show is there's a million court drama shows. There's a million cop shows. There's a million, doctor shows. There's a million at this point, superhero shows, right? There's all these shows that just take these these beaten path genres and just grind them into the dust. But this is not a setting that you get really to look at outside of like reality shows, like Top Chef or like, Hell's Kitchen, whatever. Some of these different reality shows where they go in or whatever. It just seems like an area that's sort of ripe for the picking in terms of these types of dramatizations. And I thought that they did a tremendous job of making it interesting, making you care about every single one of the characters and their development. Marcus and the baking, Tina coming around on the system the whole way through. And I just felt like this was one of those, we often say less is more, right? When it comes to these things. And when you have this show, there wasn't, in a sense, it kind of reminds me of PBC, where we said with PBC, there's not a second on screen that's wasted. And this could have been an hour-long show, right? They could have dragged it out and like thrown some bullshit romance story in there, or some, fake trumped up drama. Like it felt like they were going in that direction with Richie and his kid and the Coke stuff and all this, but they kept it where it needed to be. And they kept the focus on the restaurant and why it was important. And I felt like by doing that and keeping the episodes exactly as long as they needed to be, it really served the show well. And I thought that it was well written. It was tight from every angle. It was entertaining. It was at times funny. I would say the emotion that I got most was just anxiety and stress because of how chaotic it was. And that's kind of, I think, what you'll talk about a little bit. But like the episodes, like the first episode where it's just people screaming and trying to get a handle on the situation, like I could feel my chest tighten a little bit because of just how stress inducing that situation was. But yeah, I'm very excited to see where they go with this in the future. I think that this was not necessarily something that they thought was going to be guaranteed for a second season. And it, like you said, has become this sort of phenomenon where everybody's just kind of checking it out. And I do think that 8 half-hour or so episodes, the last episode I think is like 47, but having those short, tight episodes and a small episode count is going to really benefit people as an entry point, and it's very accessible from that angle. Whereas something like, because I've told people, I've like, listen, Under the Banner of Heaven is great, but that shit is heavy and it is long.
Yep.
And I think that is a distraction for some people, but this was just like the perfect mix. The only thing that I found weird, and this is maybe can speak to some of the complaints that some people are having, was this is supposed to be a sandwich shop. And somehow they're also rolling out this like fine, like French, this like fine cuisine or whatever. And it just felt weird that they were trying to force that in. Just almost, I feel like, just to make the point that that's the world that he came from and that's the world that Sydney came from, the sous chef. So it was just kind of weird that they were sort of like trying to sneak that angle in. But other than that, that was really the only thing that I found weird. I wouldn't even necessarily call it a flaw, but I thought the show was.
Yeah. And, I worked at, one restaurant, and I, worked there for a little bit more than 2 years, really left there really good terms still, and but that anxiety is something that was so real and like kind of freaked me out a lot. And it was, I always think of like, there's, you know, when I was leading the pizza line, just the easiest way to kind of explain this is, you know, and all it takes is one thing to be screwed up. And if you're got nonstop, you know, you're doing a bunch of pizzas in a row or something like that, you know, you have all the tickets laid out in front of you from beginning of service to end, you know, at the restaurant we were at, that's how it worked. You know, a lot of times you knew exactly what you were doing, especially during COVID and with just takeout. And all it takes is one thing to screw up and then everything's off the line. And you go from being fine to like immediately in the weeds, and to feel that and to see them go through that was like so real to me, at least. And like, you know, I haven't, you know, I didn't go to culinary school. I did this as, you know, something so I could just have something different to do because I felt like I really needed a change. And so I don't have that background of that, but a lot of these people that are in this, you know, in this kitchen don't really have that experience either. And people want to learn, and they actually make that decision to want to learn. But there is that. And I was like thrown in there, and I became like someone that people really trusted and had a good relationship with. But there were moments like I never saw like a real screaming match, but there were definitely times where you'd walk in and you could feel like the tension between people or something like that, that is just so real. And only to me can only exist in that kind of, not just sort of like a restaurant, but it's just something where it's so small. You can't get away. Like there's some jobs where you can get away from someone, but in a kitchen, you can't. Like there's just, and that they did a really good job of that. Like they go outside and smoke or something like that. But once you're on the line, that's it. And unless you walk out, you know, and just quit or whatever, you're not going anywhere. You still have to deal. Somebody screwed up or somebody made you mad. And I thought that's what they really did well, was that thing of like, you're kind of just confined with these people, and good, bad, and ugly. And as nerve-wracking as that was, the thing I will say is like that relief, and they had the same thing, is once they were done, that relief that you have is like also palpable. It shouldn't be, you know, something. And I think a lot of times they always just show the stresses of this job, but not that feeling at the end of the night when you actually did it. Because sometimes you don't feel like you're going to. And then it was almost the way the show was, all like the beginning of the show to the very end was almost that feeling of like, it was so chaotic in the beginning, and at the end we find out they're going to change the restaurant. It was kind of a sense of relief. Like we're just going to close it up and we're going to start something new. And it was like that feeling of like anxiety, and it'll be, I'm sure crazy things will happen then too. But no, like you said, it was really well done. I hope that it's a thing that maybe starts other producers and TV writers that, oh, we can do 27 minutes. We don't have to write hour long. So that's what I hope comes from this, is you can show other things. You can pick something very small, and it doesn't have to be cops, and doesn't have to be in the law room, in a courtroom. It can just be this. And I really think this is probably going to be like the beginning of at least something to some degree.
Yeah. I hope so. I think that you can, like you said, if you are efficient with the way that you write, you can still have something that's really powerful in a short amount of time, you know. And I think that I'm just interested in, like I said, I think the thing that I liked the most about it was this is just something that we don't see a lot. And I felt like, you know, one of the things that we've always said since we started this was we want to see, you know, people do new things. And I felt like this was something, and I think going back to PBC, part of the reason why we liked it so much was it was like accountants, and that's not something that you see other than maybe like a bit character on a show like The Office or something like that. But it was different. It was something that was fresh. And I just feel like there needs to be more of that. There's so many spaces in this world to explore in many different ways. It doesn't have to be like, this is labeled a comedy. I don't know how, like there were funny parts, but I don't necessarily like view this as an out and out comedy, or even like a smart comedy or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I was just so impressed with how they were able to create something that was just kind of different. And I really, really, really liked it. But the thing about this though is that I think that what's that? Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Just very believable. I'm sorry, just very believable.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm excited for season 2. I just don't know how. I think it's going to be a while before we get it, because I don't think that they're necessarily expecting another season out of this, and it's going to take time to prep that. So.